Happy New Year! It's the end of the year, I can't believe it. But also the time to share my favorite books of 2024. Honestly, 2024 wasn't the best reading year for me. I read about 62 books, but I only give, I think, 7 books 5 stars. So to make this list, I included those 7 5 stars books and also added 3 books from my 4 stars list that I had the most fun reading. And some of them are just the ones that stuck with me the most over the course of the year. Here's my top 10. I was not able to rank them, so I will just go through in the order I read them, and I will try not yapping each book too much to keep the video short. The first book is Lonely Castle and the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura, which I read in January. Looking back, I think I started the year very strong because this book quickly became a favorite, and it's the only one that made me cry this year. I was bawling my eyes out at 5 a.m. in the morning, not because of a sad ending, but because one plot really hit me really hard. The book is about 7 school-age teenagers who stopped going to school because different personal problems, mainly bullying, and somehow they all ended up meeting each other in the castle through accessing from their bedroom. It's a story that's very healing and filled with a bit of urban fantasy and magic realism. I love this book to pieces. Highly recommend. And in February, I found a second favorite book of the year and also now my favorite book of all time, Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke. Now, for Clarke, I love many of his books, such as Childhood Ends, one of my favorite science fiction novels for a long time, and I can't believe I waited until 2024 to pick this one up. It's a classic sci-fi written in the 70s, but like any of Clarke's works, it just doesn't feel outdated. You can see how many science fiction books, TV shows, and movies got inspiration from this book. The book is about this huge object named Rama that enters our solar system and leading to this scientific crew to investigate what they found, which is beyond imagination. It's just so brilliant. I love every single second of it. If you are going to pick one book from the list to read, pick this one. And next, we have Hyperion by Dan Simmons. I read in March. I have yapped about this one quite a bit, so I won't say too much here. This is another new favorite of all time. However, Hyperion might not work for everyone. It's such a big tome and not exactly a standalone, sadly, as you won't get all the answers by the end, but it is truly one of the greatest science fiction books I have ever read. Dan Simmons is just a genius. He created this world so complex and interesting, and this whole work was told in 6 different perspectives. Each chapter is like a different genre of a book. So there we have horror, space opera, mystery, memoir, cyberpunk. It's just insane. The only downside is that the ending is a real cliffhanger. I buddy read Hyperion with 2 other friends. It didn't work that much for them, but it will live rent-free in my heart forever. I love it so much. Now in April, I read Penance by Alyssa Clarke. I don't have it with me. I read it with Kindle. This was my first Alyssa Clarke. I meant to read Boy Parts, but I picked up Penance instead because I just love the cover more. It was a 4-star read for me. I wouldn't say how much I love this book, but it was one of those books I literally flew through. It's about 400 pages, and I read it pretty much in 2 settings. It has very unique style. It's like a fictional true crime format that at first I wasn't sure if it was a real story or not, so I had to look it up. I just got sucked into its world. It follows this journalist named Alec, I believe. He was investigating this murder of John Wilson that happened back to 2016 at a seaside town in England. It brought back 2010's Tumblr culture so much. It's just very nostalgic. Everyone in the book is an unreliable narrator with a lot of thought-provoking social commentary. It is a very true and unsettling examination of how true crime cases are treated and discussed nowadays. Again, it might not work for everyone, but it was a hell of a wild ride and a very addictive reading experience. I just couldn't put this book down. I was glued to the pages the whole time. And the fifth book on my top 10 list is Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I also talk about this book nonstop, which I think is one of the best dystopia books I read this year, which I read a lot, so it says a lot. But I also just love every book by Octavia Butler. She's one of my auto-buy authors now. Whenever I'm in a reading slump, I'll just pick up one of her books and I will love it instantly. If you like the dystopia genre, this is a must read. Someone compared it to The Road. I love The Road, but I love this one even more. And I think it's a scarier world build because it sets in a very believable near future. Octavia often gave the book a sad but hopeful tone. I just love this a lot. So how do you come in? I'm a mood reader, so I should have picked up I'm thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid in winter, but somehow I read this in summertime, and it's another book that I didn't give 5 stars. I believe I give it 3.5 or almost 4, but I enjoyed the reading experience very much. I usually don't include thriller or mystery genre books on my top 10 list, but this one sat with me for the longest time. Even now, from time to time, I think about it, how mind-bending and unsettling it was, and I didn't figure out the twist until the end. This is a book that you should go into without knowing anything, so I'm not going to give away the premise here. Just please read the book and experience it yourself. And another favorite of this year is not a surprise. It's The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. It's really not surprising to have her work on the list whenever I picked up her book that year. She is also my auto-buy author. I have read most of her works. The Lottery and Other Stories is one of her short story collections. It's another one of those books that I really hope you can read to experience it, and then we can chat about it. Some short story collections you feel not all stories are equally great, some feel short, but this collection, I love them all. Her stories are like this mundane settings, nothing flat out horror, but at the same time so unnerving, just keeping you on your toes. It's something worth reread so that you can learn something new every time. I just adore Shirley Jackson. I think I will read her grocery list if she allows me. I love her so much. Next we have Convenience Store Women by Sayaka Murata. I also read with my Kindle. I also read her Earthlings in December, which I don't want to say I love, but I do. But also I cannot recommend it to everyone, so I will just keep it to myself. But Convenience Store Women, it's something very special. I believe I give it like 4 to 4.5 stars, but it is a hidden gem, and also it's a very healing reading experience that I feel like I just owe it. I have to recommend. The writing is very natural, and the main character is this autistic representation character. The character studies are fascinating, how we can get peek into the depths of her mind. It's simple but also complex. I think it's kind of weird that how it's supposed to be an uncomfortable read. I found it comforting in some sort. I guess because I really love her writing and also I like their ending. To me, it was particularly satisfying, so highly recommend. Well, moving on December, I found another favorite book of all time, The Vegetarian by Hancock. And also, I don't have copy. I read this Kindle. I read her Human Acts, I believe, many years ago. I don't really remember much about that book, but she won the Nobel Prize this year, so I decided to pick up The Vegetarian, and I love it. This book explores a lot of mental illness, social norms, also art, freedom, just so much to take in. It's not for a faint heart again. But the beauty of her writing is that everything just all come together in the end seamlessly, and it is a very strange and disturbing at the same time, told by several POVs, mainly about this woman who wishes to turn into a plant. It's very bizarre book, very haunting, but at the same time, because it has this magic realism, surrealism vibe, so you aren't sure if it's just a fever dream or whatnot. And with Hancock's writing though, it makes it just a true work of art, so it's just so beautiful and important, and I will definitely read more of her works in coming years. Now the last book, which I read in the middle of the year, I just want to put it last because I want all the attention here. I love this book so much, and also it's just so natural, as you all know how much I love this author. That is none other than Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. Some said this one is one of his weakest works, but to me it's still a masterpiece. I cannot say it's better than Never Let Me Go because nothing is better than Never Let Me Go. However, Clara and the Sun is just this perfect book for me. It's science fiction, slightly dystopia, and the mundane of life, very atmospheric and subtle writings. Just every single bit of this literature piece just worked perfectly for me. The story sets in a future where young adults buy a robot friend because they don't grow up with the opportunity to make human friends anymore, and the plot just leaves the reader to guess what's happening here. And Clara is this robot friend. It's this incredible, intriguing meditation on friendship, solitude, coming of the age, faith, and many more. It's just so beautifully written and unforgettable. It may not top Never Let Me Go for me, but still, it's 100% definitely a masterpiece that I just cannot recommend enough. I love it so much to pieces. So there you have it, my top 10 favorite books of 2024. Let me know your favorite books of this year. I love to know. And Happy New Year!